The next philosopher was Baruch or Benedict, depending on the translation that you have. Spinoza. Have you heard of Spinoza before? Sounds like a Spanish name. So Spinoza was born in Amsterdam, the Netherlands, to Portuguese parents who were Jews. The word that we used to them were marranos. Have you heard that word before? Why are you laughing? Marrano is the Spanish word for pig. What did we call the Jews who converted only in name but continued to be Jews? We called them marranos, pigs. So he was born to marranos, Jewish parents who converted for the sake of being able to stay in their homeland, but who really didn't convert to Christianity. His native language was Spanish. As a young man, Spinoza was unable to accept Orthodox Jewish theology, and he was excommunicated by age 24. After he was excommunicated, he went to work grinding lenses. Back at that time, all the machines, the optic machines that we had needed lenses, microscopes, for instance. Now that we're inventing these things, eyeglasses, telescopes, they all need lenses. He grinded lenses during the day, and at night he just thought about the world. He refused the chair of philosophy at Heidelberg. They asked him to come and be a professor of philosophy. He refused. Why? Becoming a professor, you give up a lot of freedom. So now you're part of an institution that tells you how to think and what to write. Published only 2 works during his life, his Geometric Exposition and his Principles of Philosophy. What are some of his ideas? Interesting. In the same way that math has axioms and postulates, he does the same sort of thing. He begins with those axioms, those things that cannot be false, those things that can be proven false. Some of his ideas include the fact that there is only one substance in the entire universe. Think about that for a moment. One substance. So everything that exists is from that one substance. Can God exist apart from the world? No, because then there would be 2 substances. God is the world, and the world is God. God is nature, and nature is God. There is only one substance. It's not God and the world. That would be 2 substances. God and world? No. There's only one substance. And we call it God, call it nature, call it whatever you want. There's only one substance in this world. We refer to that as monism when you believe that there's only one substance. If the ultimate reality is infinite, said Spinoza, it must contain all being within itself. If God is infinite, then God contains all being within God's self. There can't be anything outside of God. So got news for you. God can't be separate from the world. If God is infinite, then God includes the world. The world is in God. Whereas Descartes began with the human subject, with the I. Descartes began with the I, the term of the subject. That's not where Spinoza begins. Spinoza begins with God. Follow the difference? He begins with the divine substance that comes first, and that shapes his ordering of ideas. His ontological order, his order of reality, begins with God rather than with the human being. Interesting, we tend to explain all the existence of finite things by one ultimate cause. Everything that exists, me, the table, the rug, this building, the stars, we all come from the same one thing. Spinoza said, to know a thing, you must know its cause, but substance has no external cause. They say you can't cause substance to be because substance is. Since existence belongs to the nature of substance, substance must exist. Substance is. And if substance were finite, then it would be limited by other substances. Think of it for a moment. If God is this substance, this ultimate reality. If God were limited, then there would be something that is not God, that is outside of God. He said, no, it can't be like that. The world is not separate from God. The world and God are the same. Substance must necessarily be infinite. The infinite is indivisible and eternal. So God's essence and God's existence are one. If God is distinct from nature, and if there are substances other than God, then God would not be infinite. If there's God, and then over here is the world, wait a minute, and suddenly God is not infinite. Infinite means you expand and you fill all corners of reality in the universe. Finite things can't be understood apart from God, but all finite things, me, you, the table, the chairs, we all exist in God. Spinoza said, whatever is in God, and nothing can exist or be conceived without God. We all exist in God. Remember what Jesus said? We are in God and God is in us. Ooh, fascinating. Panentheism, we called it in the 20th century. We are in God and God is in us. So how do you explain the relationship between body and soul? No problem for Spinoza, because there is no body and soul. He said, finite minds are modes of God under the attribute of thought. So it's simply one attribute of God. Our thought is one attribute of God. Our bodies are another attribute of God, which we call extension. Thought and extension, both attributes of God. So there's no difficulty in thinking that there's no relation between soul and body, because they're both attributes of God. The soul is thought, the body is extension. So mind and body are one and the same thing, which is conceived now under the attribute of thought, when we're thinking, now under the attribute of extension, when we look at our bodies. We're just two different attributes of God. And so our mental activities are as determined as our bodily activities. How do I move my hand? I don't know. How do I think? I don't know. I mean, it's all part of God. All that we are and all that we do is part of God. After his death, Spinoza was attacked as being an atheist, because does he really believe in God, or is he just talking about the world? It sounds like he's just talking about the world. If God is the world and the world is God, then what's the place of God? It's the world. They accuse him of being an atheist. He did deny a personal transcendent being, right? The bearded white man sitting on a cloud with a crown on his head. That he denied. He didn't believe in that. So in that case, he was an atheist. Was he really an atheist? No, because he believed that God was the world, and the world was God. He was attacked by philosophers and theologians alike, but the tide turned a century later when Hegel and others took up his cause and vindicated him. Hegel, Schelling, a century later, they would stand up and say, ooh, look at what Spinoza wrote. I think he's onto something.